Hey everyone, we have 20 minutes and we're going to get into three things. So AI overall, AI in e-commerce, and then what's real in e-commerce today. And so if you haven't been into some of the earlier sessions, AI has already come up a bunch. And so you may be a little tired of it, but we're going to get into it for 20 minutes. We'll get there. So let's start out. So this is San Francisco. So this is actually when I was flying out to the East Coast recently. I just wanted to say the energy is back in Silicon Valley and in San Francisco. You know, all the news stories are about how everyone's moving to Austin, moving to Seattle, moving to Boise. People are coming back. And so I just wanted to give a report that the energy is there. There's meetups happening all the time. I mean, people actually have to pick from AI meetups during the week. And there's just so much energy around startups. I wanted to share a specific story. I'm actually wearing it. This is a friend device. And so what it does is it actually listens to all of my conversations, runs it through an LLM, and summarizes it, and then gives you action items throughout the day of what to remember. And it all was built actually at a hackathon over a weekend, and then shipped a couple of days later. And so this is kind of the energy that is coming back around AI. And it's just super exciting. The best one for me was our 10-year-old daughter. The summarization of our conversation was eel reproduction and donuts. That was my favorite one when she came up and talked between calls. I wanted to get into why am I even talking about AI? For me, it's actually really personal. And so I had the opportunity actually to roll out AI at a couple different companies. One of them was early on. We actually ran an AI model to understand which customers would be good for us and which ones weren't, based on 1,000 different firmographic signals of the people in the companies. And we were able to actually improve the customer acquisition cost on a 10-year-old startup by 30%. And so definitely in the trenches, living it. I also had the opportunity to get into AI and e-commerce pretty early. If you saw Bloomreach, they're here. So I think they're sponsoring lunch. I was there for 5 years. We were doing big data and kind of machine learning when it was early. And then the technical co-founder of that company left to actually do an AI company in HR. And what it did is predicted where people would go in their careers and would actually match people to their potential as opposed to just keywords. And you see it, I just had a friend say oh, it's at Starbucks, it's Netflix. I mean, all the biggest companies are actually using this to understand where people are going in their career and then how to match them to jobs. And so it's kind of one of those kind of world-changing algorithms that really touches a lot of people's lives, and they may not even know that it's happening. All right, so let's get into just AI overall. This is the amount of money that it's costing to actually train these large foundational language models. This most recently has Gemini Ultra. It costs over $100 million to train this model. And it's going up exponentially. And so the new models are costing $200 million, $500 million to actually train. And what's really interesting is actually the language models are not tapping out. And so the more compute and the more data that you throw at them, the more relevant they're giving essentially answers. And so there's a great story about Microsoft and OpenAI trying to build a supercomputer that's so big that they looked at all of these states, and in the 26 states that they looked at, they realized it would take down the power grid in all of those states just to train the model. And so just to give a scale of what's happening here and what people are doing behind the scenes to train these models, and then we're just using them for free or for 20 bucks a month with ChatGPT. All right, another kind of interesting comment. This is a researcher from OpenAI. This is actually a tweet that got deleted. But the idea here is we're actually tapping out on human data to train language models with. And so what it does is there's a concept where you have multiple, essentially, AI neural nets or agents that are working together and training each other. So one of the ways that a model works is that you have a model, it has a result, and then it talks to essentially another model that says, is this good or bad? And then it trains itself back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, improving. So it's not just about training on more human data, it's actually about the models working together to train it to be essentially more accurate over time. And then this is another one. So this is just kind of the different areas compared to human performance. And you can see like it's been like reading comprehension, image recognition, those have all been past kind of human level understanding, and predictive reasoning is just starting to hit kind of human level. And so to give you a picture, when you're thinking about how this affects our work, right now you have the ability to hire a bunch of AI agents that are like not that great, right? But think about the time when you now have PhD level people or agents that can like work on your behalf or shop on your behalf or go to a meeting on your behalf with the same kind of cognitive abilities as humans. So it's just gonna get really interesting really fast. And I think we are really, actually we're kind of overestimating the impact in the short term, but I think really like underestimating the impact in the long term of how this can affect our jobs and affect our businesses. And this kind of talks to this point. This is a Stanford study that was actually done just end of last year, and it was talking about like what people are thinking or feeling about AI. It's interesting, 57% of people thought it would change their job in the next 5 years, but I thought the really standout stat here is actually that 36% of people actually thought it would replace their job in 5 years. And so for people to like get their head around that their job will be completely different because of AI already, I think is actually, I was surprised. I didn't think people would kind of embrace that already. All right, so let's get into how AI is gonna affect e-commerce. And so this last couple of weeks, we've had actually some big developments, especially with Google. I don't know if anyone saw, but there was a reversal on cookies. So like third-party cookies going away. Essentially, Google has kicked the can, and now they've said, well, we're not going to get rid of it completely with Chrome. And so that's a big development. The other one was the big antitrust case with Google. And so obviously they'll appeal, but that may change the search game. And so for e-commerce folks, that acquisition path of buying search ads and driving traffic there, that may look pretty different, especially with the advent of AI search. And so the AI search actually, I think, is the bigger impact, right? When you see like Perplexity and Search GPT coming out, people will demand answers as opposed to a list, essentially a list of links, right? And so let's talk about how that will impact. But first, this is actually an old boombox that I bought. I bought it on Facebook Marketplace. It was broken, so I had to take it apart and fix it. And what was cool is that AI showed me how to do it. So I searched in Perplexity, like I put in the problem, and it gave me a bunch of YouTube links and a bunch of info. And now I can listen to my Japanese hip hop mixtapes that really no one cares about, but I care about. And so I can bring this to the park with 8D batteries and listen to it with my friends. This is relevant, I swear, I'll get back to it. I don't know if anyone saw this. This is the Rabbit R1. This is something that was designed with teenage engineering. It's a beautiful device. It just doesn't work that great yet. It's getting there. But this is essentially a device with no buttons. Or there's one button on the side, but it's all voice. It's all, you interact with it. There's a little camera that flips up. When you click the button, it actually flips the camera up. And what's interesting here is that they're trying to build essentially a system where you can tell it to take action for you. And so you might just say, hey, we're at the airport, we're with our family, can you get us a ride home and then order dinner from our favorite Mexican place? You know what we like. That's it. And it'll like take action for you. They're not there yet, it's totally V1. But like that idea of something actually taking kind of multi-step action for you and buying for you, I think is something that's really gonna affect e-commerce. So we'll talk about what that looks like. A good example here would be, I want glasses, right? I want these cool glasses. They were popular last year. Now there's a bunch of knockoff versions. Can you buy me those glasses? And that's it, right? And so how does that affect e-commerce? It's really going to affect both product discovery and product purchase. And so on the product discovery side, obviously people are going to Google, they're going to search engines. Tomorrow they're going to go to assistants, right? So like ChatGPT and others, and they're going to get an answer given to them, right? When you say, show me X, or I want X glasses, it will say, okay, and it's going to give you a specific recommendation. And then in the future, what's going to happen is it's actually going to proactively give you recommendations, like the one that I talked about, like Japanese hip hop mixtapes. It's going to go find the most weird Japanese hip hop mixtapes on eBay that no one else cares about, they know I care about, and it will proactively surface it to me, right? On the product purchase side, already people are starting at Amazon first, but they're also going then to other e-commerce sites. In the future, people will essentially be able to be directed, obviously, to the things that are more relevant to them, but in the future, it's going to just take care of purchasing for you. And so you'll have an AI agent that will actually go out and buy for you. And so the best example here for me is I don't ever want to think about soap again. Like, I have a soap I like. Can you just make sure I have enough soap? And if I don't have enough, I'll let you know. And when I have too much, I'll let you know. And it'll actually go and find the vendor that will get it to me in the right amount of time at the price that I care about. And that's all going to happen without any interaction from the person except for exception handling, right? And that's what, if you think about, like, with our e-commerce sites, what we're having to deal with, especially if you don't have differentiated inventory. If you have differentiated inventory, it's really different. But if you have kind of the same inventory as others, you're really going to have to differentiate in ways that are machine readable, right? So essentially, you're going to have an AI on your side that will probably be negotiating with an AI on the other side, and that's how the transaction is going to happen. All right, this is kind of the more obvious stat here in the presentation, but 97% of companies are considering using AI, but already 50% are experimenting with AI. And it was interesting, even with the panel up here, there's not a ton of like obvious use cases that are driving value in AI right now. I think there's a lot of people who are just kind of experimenting with essentially early tests. Generative AI, there's still not as many business applications for it. There's a lot of people trying to add to product catalogs, and we'll get into like kind of what people are doing with e-commerce, right? With AI and e-commerce right now. The ones here that stand out to me, essentially personalized product recs. I think that's a really interesting AI use case. Customer prediction and churn prediction in real time. In-session marketing is what we do at Session AI. Which is understanding purchase intent without customer data. Fraud detection and prevention, so companies like Signified that are doing fraud detection are actually a really great use of AI and one that's pretty well established in the industry now. Dynamic pricing, inventory management, and then chatbots. We talked about even here on the stage earlier around customer service. This is a very obvious use case for AI. And then we looked at, this is a Salesforce survey that happened earlier this year, and they were looking at the areas where AI is already making an impact. And so customer experience is at the top. Product discovery, I'd say, is kind of in the middle, and then personalization is still lagging behind. There hasn't been just like a big uptake yet of that tech. And then these are some of the issues that people are dealing with actually adopting AI. And so it's interesting, security and trust is still out there. I mean, Trump is out there talking about AI-generated crowds and sowing AI discontent. But clearly there's still a trust concern around AI that people have, right? Poor data continues to be a challenge. But what's interesting at the bottom, deprioritization against other initiatives, it's not the biggest problem anymore, right? Like, people are actually prioritizing these projects, and we've had people come to us and just say, my board called, I have to do something with it. They're asking me, what am I doing with AI? Like, what's my how am I making an impact? How am I driving efficiencies with AI? And can we talk? And so it's definitely coming. I mean, I know I have that pressure, and I'm sure others of you in the audience do as well. All right, so let's talk about like what's real in AI today. And so the world is getting more anonymous. And so Google, Apple, Meta, they're all limiting essentially customer data. I think there's a pitch out there that that's for the customer. I think that's really more about power. Regulations are more and more restrictive. And then also users are identifying just to opt out. With iOS, with other phones, you're able to opt out of marketing, and everyone gets the ask not to track in your app. People are opting out from that personal information. It's just making conversion harder and harder, and marketers and e-commerce folks have really relied on that data to drive an impact. And so where do you go? There's really, I would say, an untapped opportunity in the anonymous user. And so you have your CRM project, you have your CDP project, you have a personalization or retargeting projects, and those are all focused on the known user, right? So everyone's kind of on this hamster wheel of going to paid search, trying to get new users, then all of a sudden they don't convert, you don't know who they are, then you go pay for them again, you pay for them again, you pay for them again. And so part of this is like, what do you actually do with these anonymous users? Like, how do you drive an impact? And there's really not a lot of tools that are focused on that. There is a new kind of world with behavioral AI, and so this is AI that runs in the session. So it's actually, you can watch people's behavior and then run an AI model to predict the outcomes of that session. And so just to make it clear, this is something that we do. This is going to be a thing. Like, we're definitely the first ones there, but this is going to be a tactic that is just going to exist because it's too valuable to not exist in the market. And so what it does is it actually looks at the clickstream data, predicts who will buy, who won't buy, and who's on the fence. And then you can treat them differently in real time before they leave the site. And so all of the AI up to this point has been very focused on how do you convert people later, right? So you look at someone's behavior, you look at your loyalty program, you look at your CDP data, you run an algorithm, you run an AI model, you predict where they might go, maybe the next offer for them, maybe for your email, but it's not in real time. And so what's changing and what's unique here is that the data in real time is available, and you're able to essentially change the experience while they're there. These are the segments that we were talking about, and it even gets more granular than that, right? Where you might have like different deciles of people's behavior and whether they're going to buy or not, and you might treat them differently. Or someone who might be coming from a loyalty program, you might treat differently than someone who you haven't seen before. This is one of the interesting use cases. So this is an $11 billion retailer that worked with us, and you can see in one of the promos is like a great use case for AI. So they spend about $105 million on promos every year, and we identified that $83 million of that $105 million were going to people who are already going to buy, right? And so we were actually in real time able to suppress offers for the people who were already going to buy, and then repurpose them for the ones that were on the fence. So you end up deriving more conversion and improving margin at the same time. And so they ended up reducing their promo spend 35%. We saved them $40 million to the bottom line in the first year. And so that's the power of this like real-time kind of behavioral, reflexive kind of motion with retailers. Another kind of case study here is Tailored Brands. And so they own Men's Warehouse, Jose Banks, and others. And they've been a customer for 3 years. They've driven a 13% higher conversion rate with this technology, and they've gotten a 19x ROI on their spend. And so I was actually up on stage with Suzanne just a few weeks ago talking through kind of their case study and what they've been doing there. What this does is it really unlocks the best deployment of resources. And so we talked about promotions. There's another use case where you can actually move inventory before it goes to clearance. And so everyone's working with a markdown budget. And so you can actually, based on behavior, if you know someone would want to buy something or they're on the fence, you can actually offer something at not a clearance price, but at a slightly discounted price, or with a bundle, or with free shipping, something that would incent them to drive behavior in real time. It's a really cool use case. Last thing is just like, how do you get this done in your organization? Like, I've had to go sell AI into the org. Jenna is awesome. She was most recently CDO at Solo Brands. She was at Snipes before. For her, one of the ways that she's helping sell it through is just to demystify AI, that you're already using it, right? So there's already, like we talked about, fraud prevention. There's already a bunch of use cases that are in motion, and so people don't have to necessarily be scared of it, but that it's already here. And then the last one, Mike Dupuis at Spark Brands. Forever 21 is one of our customers in their portfolio. And so what he's talking about is the efficiency play. And that's what they talked about here on the stage right before, is that AI is about driving efficiencies, it's about growth. And here, this is just, he's talking about the metrics that AI hits on. And so just to wrap it up, kind of 3 takeaways. You definitely have to have a story for AI this year. This is just a link to my LinkedIn. If you scan this, I can send you a link to some AI resources, then also a link to the friend thing if you want. It's $49, it's really cool. But I can send you all that if you just want to send me a question. Second takeaway is just you can actually drive your career with AI. That's something that bringing in new technology actually creates change in organizations. It's the behavior change that you're looking for. It's not always technology that's the hard thing. It really is technology driving the behavior change. And last takeaway is just something I said earlier, is that I think we're actually underestimating the long-term impact of AI on society and on our businesses. Short-term hype, it's kind of being overhyped, but long-term, I think we're actually like underestimating what we're going to do here. So we'd love to talk with you over here. We have a group of people here in the halls. We'd love to talk with you either about AI or about our solution, either way. So thank you so much. Appreciate you listening. Thanks.